WELSTech is a bi-weekly podcast exploring the intersections of technology and ministry. It is part of the podcast network sponsored by WELS, the Wisconsin Evangelical Lutheran Synod. Our show today is hosted by Martin Spriggs and Sally Draper. Welcome back to WELSTech, everybody. This is episode 684, recorded on July 1st, 2022. My name is Martin Spriggs, and this is a show about technology and ministry and where those two intersect. Helping me talk about that, think through it, and hopefully share some good stuff with you today is Sally Draper. Hello, Sally.
Hi, Martin. Welcome to July. I guess I have a disclaimer at the beginning of this episode of WELSTech, and that is that there are roofs being replaced around me, not my roof, but some nearby. So I'm hoping that doesn't come through on the recording, but there's a lot of pounding happening in my world today.
You're nothing. That's just kind of life. That's okay. Yeah. We expect that. There have been other interruptions on WELSTech in the past that we've survived. So not a problem.
I remember having a dog at one point with a jangly collar, and he would manage to make his mark. So
yeah, what was his name again?
Casey the Wonder Dog.
Casey the Wonder Dog. Yes. Yeah. We are in the midst of summer, right in the heart of summer. And one thing that we do each summer here on WELSTech is shorten things up and change things up a little bit. We focus on one topic, shrink down the agenda, and just kind of talk through that. We, of course, do our picks and community feedback, that kind of stuff. But this summer, we're working through actually a little bit of my own homework. I'm beginning to build a course called Enhancing Ministry with Technology, which I'll be teaching for the Graduate Studies program at Martin Luther College next spring. But I've got to have everything written this fall. So kind of thinking through that out loud, and Sally's helping me do that. And it's kind of an interesting course. We've talked so far, we've broken it down into 7 pieces. We've talked about project management. We've talked about data management, the first 2 segments of our summer series. Today, we're talking about a topic we talked about not too long ago, last October, I think it was, called PKM, or Personal Knowledge Management. And this is a newer concept. I think when we talked about it in October, we kind of had to introduce the topic and to a lot of people, as they have not heard this term before. You've heard of other things like personal information management and professional development and those kinds of things, but this is just a little bit of a variation. So, Sally, I thought a good thing to do would be go straight to the source, which is, in this case, Wikipedia, and read a couple paragraphs from there just to introduce you or reintroduce you to this concept and why it might be relevant for a ministry worker of 2022. So I'm just going to read a couple lines here. We don't normally do this on WELSTech, but I thought rather than me try and explain it, let's give the clinical definition. Personal knowledge management, PKM, is a process of collecting information that a person uses to gather, classify, store, search, retrieve, and share knowledge in their daily activities and the way in which these processes support work activities. It is a response to the idea that knowledge workers, that's us, need to be responsible for their own growth and learning. It is a bottom-up approach to knowledge management, or KM. A little bit of the history, and it doesn't have a long history, although as early as 1998, Davenport, they're referencing an author here, wrote on the importance to worker productivity of understanding individual knowledge processes. The term personal knowledge management appears to be relatively new. Its origin can be traced in a paper from 1999. PKM integrates personal information management, or PIM, lots of acronyms here, Sally, focused on individual skills with knowledge management, in addition to input from a variety of disciplines such as cognitive psychology, management, and philosophy. From an organizational perspective, understanding of the field has developed in light of expanding knowledge about human cognitive capabilities and the permeability of organizational boundaries, et cetera, et cetera. I just want to read one line here from the models section. Dorsey in 2001 identified information retrieval, assessment and evaluation, organization, analysis, presentation, security, and collaboration as essential to PKM. So there you have the Wikipedia definition. I think it might be helpful to kind of dissect that and unpack that a little bit. So we threw a lot of acronyms around, and I think some people kind of confuse this with personal information management, or maybe just even document and file management or personal learning networks. And it's kind of a mix of some of those things, but maybe the best definition I've been able to come up with for what personal knowledge management is it's a system where you essentially create a second brain, something outside of your head. We often refer, you and I often refer to the WELSTech show notes site as our second brain. And that's true because that's where we document the kind of our thoughts, links, reactions. That's the single source for everything we've done on WELSTech. So if we kind of translate that into our own personal space, a second brain is that place where we dump and organize and search and make sense of all the things that the article talked about, retrieval, etc. The stuff that's in our head. What do you think,
Martin,
Sally?
I have a weird reaction to all that you just said. It reminded me of a detective show that I saw once, and the criminal mind, the mastermind behind it, when they finally uncovered his lair, it had all types of images and newspaper articles and print materials like tacked up on the walls all over the place, and then he had strings like all over the place. It was this massive web of strings that connected all of these pieces of this puzzle that this criminal mind had worked out or whatever. And that's kind of a picture in my mind of what PKM looks like in a digital space. It's kind of connecting the dots.
Have you seen A Beautiful Mind?
I haven't. I would like to.
You should see that because it's very much that way.
Okay.
And I'm not saying you need to have that kind of IQ to even do this. I think maybe one of the big questions to ask right off the bat is, how do you discover and search for your own knowledge, right? And I think everybody does that a little bit differently. They write it down in a notebook, or they have a folder in Google Docs or Google Drive, or they have some other system. And we'll get into the tips and tools. We'll break this down a little bit further in just a minute. But maybe I'll ask you, Sally, how do you discover and search for your knowledge? What is your second brain other than our WELSTech show notes page for WELSTech-y stuff?
Am I allowed to say Google? Just Google, period. No. I think it's more than that. It's the organization piece of the discovery as well. But that's a hard one. I think if I were to tell you one thing that I couldn't live without that organizes me and is my go-to, it almost would be my browser bookmarks in Chrome and Google. Chrome and Edge. That's really probably what I do most consistently and have the most stored. And I can even dial up things from years ago that are tucked away in some hidden folder deep in that structure. But I do rely very heavily on my bookmarks. I have them backed up. I can access them from my mobile devices because I use Chrome browser and things like that. So I would say that would be probably my number one would be my bookmark system.
Yep, I would agree. That's one area that I do some kind of collection of knowledge. I think what you can't do there, and this is where things like, for me, OneNote or whatever come in, is those ideas that you have, those, you're showering and you come up with an idea and you jump out and say, I got to write this down. Or a lot of the ideas that pop into my head happen while I'm mowing my lawn, or those kinds of things. How do you capture those? And then how do you not just capture them, but then how do you stuff them into a place you're going to discover them again, go back to them, do something with them? Because an idea that you have is only as valuable as you putting it to work. And that's where personal knowledge management tries to shine, where it says, not only do you need a place to put these ideas, these thoughts, these this web of ideas, because one idea leads to another, and you kind of build it up until it becomes a big idea or a project, or something meaningful. Maybe it becomes a blog post or a lesson plan or a sermon, or whatever it is, whatever your area of interest and responsibility is. How do you get back to it? How do you find it? How do you make sense of it? How do you give it some value? How does it provide value to you? That's probably the best way to describe a personal knowledge management system, is not only just a place for research, but a place to do something with that research, make it into, a big idea.
I almost feel like it's almost a Bloom's taxonomy kind of thing, or a higher order thinking skill that you're talking about. Like, maybe I'm just at the junior high level of this and you're a little bit higher in the pyramid than me, because it takes, I just kind of came up with a list of adjectives and things to describe it. It takes consistency. It takes commitment. It takes intentionality. It takes refinement over time and things like that. And that's definitely on a scale. It takes graduated levels to get this where you want it to be, probably.
Certainly takes practice, and all the things you mentioned: consistency, commitment. A couple tips that came off the top of my head as I was thinking through this discussion is, it's really helpful to try and only put your stuff in one place. If you have to kind of remember where you stuffed it, then you've automatically created a barrier between you and your second brain. So now your brain has to remember not only the thing that you maybe captured, but where you put that thing. Is it in a bookmark? Is it in OneNote? Is it in Google Drive? Is it in a notebook someplace? That's hard. Another tip: don't over organize. So if you have folders 7 layers deep, now you are counting on your future self to remember what your past self was thinking when you organized it. That's where search comes in, and that comes back to tools, which we'll talk about here in a minute. You have to be able to enter a fuzzy search term, whether it's a tag or some little piece of what you remember, to find this thing, and then hopefully they're linked together so that you can find the relevant information.
And that process that your brain goes through to do that, when it really is old and deep that you're looking for. I'm thinking about our use of Trello for the business side of this, where we capture so much with our technology team in Trello. And that moment when I know it exists, but trying to find it and going to that search box and feeling like I'm never going to find this. This is so long ago or whatever, and refining things and actually having it deliver for you. There's a little panic on the front end of that, but search is such a powerful tool.
Yep. And getting more and more important as we create more and more material, almost all digitally.
Sure.
It's important to do that. Another tip: portability. You have to kind of think where this stuff is stored, in what kind of system, and how you're going to retrieve it. Are you always going to have a computer in front of you, or maybe it's a tablet, or maybe it's a phone, And maybe it's not even the same kind of operating system. Maybe it's a Mac or a PC, and you decide to switch one day, and then all your stuff is locked in, Windows only or a Mac only system. So cross-platform is an important decision to make. So keep that in mind as you move forward. Another tip: set aside time. You have to, this is going back to your intentionality, tip. Set aside time for cleanup, review, and discovery. So you want to keep things tidy. Don't leave cruft in there, I guess. Spend time, dedicated time to reviewing what you've maybe done during the week, maybe a Friday is a good day to do that. And then spend time just kind of nosing around your stuff. And then you might discover stuff that's in there. You refresh your memory as to, oh yeah, that was in there. I got to get back to that. And maybe you add a task to your task list based on that piece of information that you found. Now is the time to be thinking of it over summer, because school year is starting up, and now I've got a chance to think through this and develop it, or run it past somebody else, or request budget monies for it, or whatever that is. So that's I think the hard part is just because we're so busy, we don't just set time out to think and review and spend a little time with our second brain. So I think that's important. Sally, we should probably, this is a technology kind of show, so we should talk about some technology tools. Of course, there's the capture side of this, the software side of this, and we'll put a link to episode 664, where we talked about a lot of these in the past when we talked about personal knowledge management for the first time. But Obsidian is a tool that is very prominent today for capturing text. One of the kind of centerpieces of their approach is these are all markdown files. So they're just raw text files that Obsidian sits on top of and makes sense of and connects and tags and cross references. And it's very very simple to use and very portable, because now all of your stuff is in text files. OneNote is basically what I use, and we've talked about on the show. I like OneNote because it basically allows you to stuff almost anything in it. You can have images, you can obviously have text, you can drag files into it, you can share it, you can draw in it. So very flexible. I can have it on my iPad or on my computer or on my phone and still get access to all that information. And searching is excellent, within OneNote. Two others that are very popular that I don't have a lot of experience with are Craft and Notion. Notion came along, I think, first, and then Craft is kind of gives a little bit more style to the same concept, but they kind of do the same thing, document and task management and idea captures, brainstorming tools, those kinds of things. Just one important note across all of these tools that is really key, I think, is make sure that whatever tool you select allows you to link information together. I wish, and that's one of the, I think maybe you'll agree, Sally, one of the shortcomings of OneNote, it's not super easy to insert a link to another page, for instance. I mean, you can always grab a link to a page, but it's a 2 or 3 step process. You got to go to the page, right click, copy link to note, and then go back to the page you're on and add it. These other tools allow you to do it more seamlessly, where you can just hit a key combination and then do a quick search for whatever you want to link to. But that is key. Make sure that you can link one piece of information to another rather than just this behemoth big file of all your stuff. You want to be able to segment it out. So that's the software side. Sally, you mentioned bookmarks, as maybe being one of your key tools with your personal knowledge management. And I think we'll call this kind of the utilities area. I think that is super important. And I'm going to have a pick of the week that kind of focuses on bookmarks, but super powerful, right? Both whether that's in Chrome or Edge or whatever browser you're using, it's really kind of the heart of trying to organize what is a place that most people spend a lot of time on, and that's your web browser.
Mm-hmm. I've even gone as far as exporting my bookmarks and editing the XML file that's generated to
really?
share my bookmarks or a
Mm-hmm.
portion of my bookmarks with other people,
Oh,
new
yeah.
hires in the department, different things like that. So it is possible to share that knowledge location as well.
There's a pretty huge ecosystem of plugins, within Chrome that can amp up the capabilities of bookmarks or favorites or whatever they're called. Edge also has, and we've talked about this in the past, something called collections. So you can group together websites or even bookmarks into a collection. Let's say you're doing some trip planning, or you've got a big idea that you're building over time, and you just want a place to tuck these away. And it's kind of got a visual interface, and it'll give you a thumbnail and all that stuff. So check that out if you're interested in that. But yeah, bookmarks, because we spend so much time on the web, bookmarks are really key. We'll talk more about that in a minute. And then finally, the last category under tools is hardware. Of course, the computer is going to be an important piece of the puzzle. But from a portability standpoint, I think one of the key tools that I probably couldn't live without with personal knowledge management is the good old iPad, right? And I think one of my picks of the year last year was the iPad I picked up kind of mid-year, and that's this iPad Mini, which is a nice size to carry around to meetings, and it's not real in your face, and is perfect for writing notes. I use it with the Apple Pencil, and just kind of a take it everywhere kind of tool that allows me to both have my notes but also capture notes. And you can take pictures. When we were purchasing our new home, which we just moved into a couple days ago, I took this along and was taking pictures of different rooms or cabinets, because we were redoing the cabinets and I wanted to get sizes. So I take a picture of the kitchen cabinet, then I'd measure it, and then I draw right on the picture what the dimensions were of the openings, room sizes. Is the couch going to fit here? That kind of stuff. So came in handy there, or just for capturing documents. If you want to try and stay paperless. So a portability tool like an iPad is, I think, key.
Okay, so I have to tag on to this, maybe not knowledge management, but technically it was for me. Just got back from a trip, a vacation, but I actually started that trip right at the end of the education conference, and I still had some leftover responsibilities to the education conference as I'm driving down the highway. I wasn't driving, my husband was driving. I was passenger down the highway. And so I brought my personal computer to do that work. And a couple of hours in, I realized I left my personal computer power supply at home. And I had my iPad, and I literally, in a blink of an eye, was able to shift gears. I didn't expect to be able to do what I needed to do on the iPad, but it delivered, over and above what I thought it was capable of. I was so impressed and so thankful for the battery life on it. It was a lot longer than my personal computer, and I did have a power supply for it along. So kudos for the iPad. I second your approval of it.
Tucks in most places, and very multi-purpose tool. And we don't, we're not big Apple sponsors, of course, but iPad seems to be the go-to and works the best. I think other manufacturers have tried to produce tablets, and I've tried a few of them, and nothing really compares, especially when you compare it with a pencil, Apple Pencil too. So not the cheapest solution, but you'll get long life out of it. I find it lasts a long time, and quite functional. So that's it, I think, Sally, for personal knowledge management. We're going to talk, I'll I'll tease our next show because we're going to continue down this enhancing ministry with technology journey here. Personal learning networks, PLNs, another acronym we're going to talk about next time. I'm looking forward to that as well, because that all plays in here, because those learning networks are the seed or the source for your knowledge management system. So you're pulling this stuff out and you're saying, this is a good idea. I want to think more about this, or I want to expand on it, or take a left turn with it, or whatever. So cool stuff.
Oh, lots of acronyms in this show, Martin, but actually you expanded my vocabulary. I'm so excited that you taught me a new word today. I did not know the word cruft, and I need a spelling on that. Is that CRUFT?
You spell it any way you want. I'm not sure it's actually a word. So I should look this up. Cruft.
Set aside time for cleanup, review, and discovery, so you have no cruft. So file that one away, folks. Vocabulary word of the day.
Yeah, I'm just looking up cruft. There's apparently a town in Germany with KRUFT spelling, but let's look up CRUFT. It is a word, cruft, CRUFT. Badly designed, unnecessarily complicated, or unwanted code or software. So it's a technology term, which I've
look at that.
Here. So cruft is a jargon word for anything that is left over, redundant, and getting in the way. If it is used particularly in defective, superseded, useless, superfluous, or dysfunctional elements in computer software. All right.
No cruft on WELSTech, guys.
No cruft here.
This is the theme.
Cruft free zone here.
There you go.
All right, let's move on to our picks of the week.
All right. And my pick of the week is geared toward those with the design desire. And maybe not the high level designers, but the people like me that are kind of wannabes that fake their way through image editing and design. Good news. Good news. Adobe's web-based Photoshop will soon be free to everyone, according to an article in PC World. We'll link to that article. It's already free for folks in Canada, so they're anticipating it coming. And this was from like June 14th. I'm sorry, I didn't get anything more recent, and it's possible that it's been released already in America. I haven't looked that up, but I will. But the point is, Adobe Photoshop is a very high-end, not to pocket, wallet-friendly solution. When they did go online with it, apparently it was in the $700 range. Now you can get it in the Creative Cloud, but that's $120 a year. So ongoing costs to use Photoshop through Creative Cloud. Apparently, they're realizing that's not always the most friendly way to attract customers when the price tag is so high. And so they're willing to go with a freemium version. And it looks like that'll be a pretty powerful tool. When I think Photoshop, the thing that comes to mind right away is doing layers and things in your images. And it sounds like that kind of capability will be in the free tool, and they'll just scale back on some of their higher end capabilities that you'll have to continue to pay for. But exciting news, definitely something I will be checking out, and probably learning a lot more about image editing just because I have that tool available to me. So watch for more from Adobe. Just a free Adobe login should get you access when it is released. So
excellent.
Yeah.
Like it. All right, my pick of the week is a YouTube video from Simplitivity. It's a guy that I've followed for quite some time, and he talks about productivity tips related to technology. And this one is entitled How to Manage Chrome, as I guess applies to Edge too, bookmarks, how to manage Chrome bookmarks like a pro. I found this pretty interesting. It's a fairly basic introduction to bookmarks, things like how to show the bookmarks bar, that kind of stuff, how to create folders, but so some good practical common sense things. A couple things that I learned is that once you've created these bookmarks, and this is talked about in the video, you can right click on a folder in particular and open everything in that folder. For instance, in Edge, you can create a new tab group, and tab groups are just collections. They kind of color code a group of tabs. So for instance, I have a tab or a folder full of Office applications. So I have Outlook, and I have Outlook for the web, and I have Calendar and OneDrive, those kinds of things. And I can right click on that folder and say open in a new tab group, and now I've got it all set up. So if there's a series of websites that you open up for specific tasks, maybe it's lesson planning or sermon preparation, so you got a tab for Logos and Bible, another Bible, or other resources, and you put that in a folder on your bookmarks bar, you can right click and select open in tab group, and then you've got all your stuff ready to go. You don't have to open up one at a time or type anything into the URL bar. If you want to even save an extra click, I think on the keyboard, by pressing Control and Alt and then left clicking, it'll open it up, all the tabs in a particular folder. On the Mac, that would be Command Alt and then click, which just saves you one step. So if you're used to opening up a lot of tabs regularly, that may be a time saver for you. Another thing that he talks about in the video is using emoji. So if you want to spruce up what those folders look like, or even replace the icon that comes with the tab when you save it, you can do that. Just go to something like Emojipedia, and you can do a search on whatever emoji you want. And then there's a copy button, for instance, on Emojipedia, and you can just rename the folder and give it a little bit more style, if you like, if there's an emoji that suits what you're doing. So all kinds of little tweaks that make it a little bit more fun. You are spending a lot of time in your browser, so you might as well make it as comfortable and as productive as possible.
Did I know that Emojipedia existed? Have you been holding back on me, Martin, or what?
It's been around a long time.
I'm learning all kinds of stuff today.
Yep. There's other one, Emojipedia. There's a couple others that allow you to search for these things. So
cool.
Works pretty well.
I know where I'm going after this.
Pick of the week. Yes. Community. We're calling this something else, and we haven't updated our OneNote yet. Community news and feedback. Is that what we're calling it? Yes.
I think you're right, Martin.
Okay. What do we got?
Well, I thought it would be great to circle back to the education conference that wrapped up last Wednesday, June 22nd. We spent a lot of time in our last season of WELSTech talking and prepping for a very exciting conference. And I'm going to tell you, it did not disappoint. I was privileged to be part of the conference, and it was a fabulous 4 days total with the pre-conference included, and such amazing connections and speakers and fellowship time and good food and great location. It all delivered as desired, and I was very happy to report that. And there were a few things I thought WELSTechers might be interested in as a result. First of all, quick screen share. If you're watching the video, you can go to welsedconference.com and find a lot of the resources and things that were part of it. Presenters shared their presentations, many of them shared, and you can access that information there. We also had a mobile app, and Martin, you might remember back to Wells EdTech Lead in 2019, we used a tool called Glide App, and we did some WELSTech follow-up on that because it served us really well. And it's a free tool. And it's driven by Google Sheets behind the scenes with markdown text in the fields in the Google Sheet. And once again, I think we're very happy with the performance of the app. We went totally paperless, so people relied on this for their schedule and to access all the different resources and things. So again, just a plug for Glide Apps, a really versatile tool. And I think we've kind of just scratched the surface with what we've done, but it's been very well received and was pivotal to the success of the conference. So I was excited to see that. One person that I met in particular, Principal Micah Beesterfield, and I can't remember exactly where he serves, but he was looking for some digital citizenship resources, and I was able to point them to both Common Sense Media and Google's Applied Digital Skills, where there's curriculums, there's resources for parents, for students, for teachers, all kinds of great things on both of those sites. So if you're looking for something similar, definitely check out those sites for those types of resources. And then finally, circling back,
by the way, Reedsburg, Wisconsin.
Thank you for looking that up.
Baraboo, I guess he's at St. John's in Baraboo.
And then circling back to our last WELSTech, we talked about Ditch That Textbooks Summer Professional Development. It was submitted to us from teacher Michael Vlieger at, I want to say, St. Risen Savior in Mankato, Minnesota. It goes to my church, but the school has a different name. Anyway, I was a little bit intrigued. They had one titled Getting Started with Digital Escape Rooms. So I actually plunked down the $19 and bought this course and went through it. So I just wanted to give you some feedback. I thought it was extremely well executed. There were tons of resources, video tutorials, lots of templates and ideas and things to use. And I actually created a digital escape room for the conference, the Great EDU 22 Escape. So we'll throw a link in the show notes if you want to try out a digital escape room to see the kind of things they teach you in that Ditch That Textbook online tutorial resources. You can check out our digital escape room. One thing that was cool was they taught you how to use a Google slide to do some image overlays and include some hidden clickable things. So as you move your mouse around over different components on the image, it'll open up different puzzles and things for you to solve that help you ultimately answer the questions that are on the Google form that make up the escape room. So it was a lot of fun to do. It was easy to follow their example. And this is a great example for you to see the kind of things that you might learn to do. You can create these escape rooms very well received by students in all different types of settings on practically any type of content. And it's fun to create. And like I said, they give you lots and lots of templates and things to use to make that happen. So check it out if you're interested at all in digital escape rooms. Excellent.
Community News and Feedback is one of our favorite segments. And it's only possible if the community, the WELSTech community, gets involved. So please contribute your ideas, thoughts, reactions, questions to our show notes page. If you go to welstech.wels.net, you find not only the information about the episode and a link to the audio and video, but all kinds of different ways to connect with us. There is a little blue button hanging off the right edge of the screen that says send a voicemail. So you can do that. You can leave a comment on any show, which we will see and share if appropriate. And then, of course, all the social media that we are involved with: Facebook, Twitter, Pinterest, and the list goes on and on. So you are more than welcome to dive over there and both enjoy the material, our WELSTech second brain, but also a way to connect with us. I forgot to mention good old-fashioned email, welstech@wels.net will get to us as well. We get a lot of our connections through that as well.
Yeah.
Excuse me, Sally. That is going to, I think, do it for this week's show. 684 is in the can, and we're going to look forward to 685, where we talk again about personal learning networks. So tune back in a couple weeks, and we look forward to having you and sharing some more good stuff. Thank you for joining us this week, and have a great week. See you soon. Bye-bye.